Picture this: gold balloons floating against champagne-colored walls, a slideshow of old family photos flickering on a projector screen, and my father standing at the microphone in his best suit, holding a glass of whiskey like he's about to deliver the speech of his lifetime. It's his 60th birthday, and the banquet hall is packed with relatives, old colleagues, and half-tipsy friends who've known him for decades. Everyone's laughing at his jokes, clapping at his achievements, nodding when he talks about his house, his car, his carefully built retirement fund. Then he clinks his glass, and the room goes quiet. He smiles that smirk I've seen 1,000 times before, and says something that makes my blood run cold. You know, every architect makes at least one mistake in their career. Mine was having a child who'll never be part of my retirement plan. My retirement mistake. The room erupts in nervous laughter. Some people clap awkwardly. A few relatives avoid eye contact with me. Someone's phone is definitely recording because I can see the red light blinking from the third table. And me? I'm sitting there, fingers gripping the armrest of my chair so hard my knuckles turn white, forcing a half smile while my chest feels like it's caving in. But here's what nobody in that room knows, including him. The portfolios, the companies, the investment accounts that add up to roughly $13.8 million, they're all in my name, not his, mine. And in a few weeks, when the owner of this very banquet hall casually mentions during a contract renewal that the lead partner of the investment group that now owns this venue is me, and when my father finally sees the breakdown of my actual net worth, there will only be one joke left in this story, and he won't be the one telling it. Let me take you back so you understand how we got here. My father isn't a bad man in the traditional sense. He never hit me, never screamed at the top of his lungs, never threw things across the room. But emotionally, the man was a glacier, cold, distant, and completely immovable. He had a very specific script for what success looked like, and if you didn't follow it word for word, you were a disappointment. Get a specific degree, land a safe job with benefits and a pension, live close to home, send money back to support his retirement dreams. That was the blueprint. Deviate even slightly, and you were wasting his investment, his time, his carefully laid plans. I chose a different route. I went into startups, tech, creative ventures, investing, things that didn't come with a guaranteed paycheck or a benefits package. My early years were brutal. Failed projects, side hustles that barely paid rent, gig work that kept the lights on but left me exhausted. And every single time I stumbled, my father was there with the same script. You're going to end up broke. You're wasting everything I gave you. You ruined my retirement timeline. It wasn't disappointment in his voice. It was disgust, like I was a stock he'd bought that kept crashing. One night, after another lecture about my poor life choices, I finally snapped. I looked him dead in the eye and said, "I'm not your retirement plan." And you know what he said? He leaned back in his chair, took a sip of his drink, and said it for the first time in private. "Exactly. You're my retirement mistake." That phrase became his favorite weapon. He didn't say it in front of guests, not yet, but he'd drop it during arguments, during family dinners when I didn't meet his expectations, during phone calls when I tried to share small wins. It was his way of reminding me that in his ledger, I was a negative line item, a failed investment, a loss he couldn't write off. But here's what he didn't see. While he was busy labeling me a mistake, I was building something he couldn't even comprehend. My business finally hit. It wasn't overnight, and it wasn't luck. It was years of grinding, learning, pivoting, taking calculated risks that terrified me but paid off in ways I never imagined. Maybe it was a SaaS platform that scaled faster than I expected. Maybe it was an agency that landed clients I only dreamed of working with. Maybe it was smart real estate investments, trading strategies that compounded, or a combination of all of it. The details don't matter as much as the result. Multiple income streams, diversified assets, equity in companies that were growing exponentially, cash reserves that could weather any storm. And when I sat down with my financial advisor and we calculated everything, the number that came back was staggering. $13.8 million. That's my net worth, not my income, not my revenue, my actual financial standing. And my father has no idea. None. You want to know why? Because every time I tried to share a win with him early on, he mocked it. Let's see how long that lasts. Don't count your chickens before they hatch. You're going to end up broke. So I stopped sharing. I stopped trying to prove myself to someone who had already decided I was a failure. I built my empire quietly, without his validation, without his approval, without his involvement. And now, here's the irony that keeps me up at night. My father constantly complains about inflation, about his retirement fund not being enough, about the market crashing his investments. He's terrified he won't have enough to retire comfortably. He's counting on my older sibling, if I have one, to contribute. He's thinking about selling the house, downsizing, cutting corners. Meanwhile, I'm sitting on enough wealth to fund his entire retirement, and then some. I could write a check tomorrow that would solve every financial worry he has for the rest of his life. But here's the thing he never understood. I'm not his retirement plan, and I'm sure as hell not going to let disrespect buy forgiveness. He spent years telling me I ruined his retirement timeline. He spent decades making me feel like a burden, a mistake, a bad investment. And now that I have the power to be his savior, I have to ask myself, why would I? Why would I rescue someone who never believed in me, who humiliated me publicly, who looked me in the eye and called me his retirement mistake in front of everyone who matters to him? The answer is simple. I won't. Not unless something fundamentally changes. Not unless he sees me as a human being, not a line item on his balance sheet. So here's what I decide to do. I'm not going to scream at him. I'm not going to cause a scene at his birthday party or send him an angry email in all caps. That's not how you handle someone like my father. He respects numbers, facts, documents. He respects formal settings and undeniable proof. So I'm going to give him exactly that. I'm going to create a moment where the truth is so clear, so undeniable, that he can't dismiss it or laugh it off or pretend it doesn't matter. And I'm going to do it in a way that mirrors exactly what he did to me. He humiliated me in public, in front of people who matter. I'm going to reveal the truth in a setting where he can't escape it, where he has to sit with the reality of just how wrong he was. Now, I have a few options here, and I'm still deciding which route to take. Option 1, the banquet twist. It turns out that the banquet hall where he threw his 60th birthday party, it's part of a chain that was recently acquired by an investment group. And guess who's the lead partner in that group? That's right, me. He stood in a venue I indirectly own and called me a retirement mistake. The irony is almost too perfect. If I go this route, I'll wait a few weeks, let the dust settle, and then make sure he finds out through the property manager or the contract renewal paperwork, just casually. Oh, by the way, the new ownership group? Yeah, your kid's the lead partner. I want to see his face when that clicks. Option 2, the financial intervention. My mother, who's always been the peacemaker, has been worried about their retirement situation. She knows the numbers aren't adding up, and she's been pushing my father to talk to someone who understands money. She suggests me. He's reluctant, of course, because in his mind, I'm barely keeping my own head above water, but he's desperate enough to agree. So we set up a meeting. Neutral location, maybe a coffee shop, maybe my office, maybe even their living room. I bring a laptop and a thin folder. He is expecting me to give him some basic budgeting advice, maybe recommend a financial planner. Instead, I'm going to show him my portfolio. Not to brag, not to gloat, just to present facts. Company valuation documents, property listings, account summaries, everything redacted just enough to protect privacy, but clear enough that the totals are undeniable. And on the final page, in bold print, net worth estimate $13.8 million. I'm going to let him sit with that for a moment. Let it sink in. Let him process the fact that his retirement mistake is worth more than he's made in his entire life. And then I'm going to say something simple. You called me your retirement mistake. I just wanted to make sure the facts were clear. No yelling, no anger, just cold, hard truth. Whichever route I choose, the goal is the same. I want him to understand that his words had consequences, that his judgment was based on ignorance, not reality, that the child he wrote off as a failure has succeeded beyond anything he could have imagined. And I want him to sit with the knowledge that I could solve his retirement problems with a single check, but I'm choosing not to. Because respect isn't something you can buy back, and I'm not going to let him erase years of emotional damage with a last-minute apology. Let me walk you through how this actually unfolds, because it's even better than I imagined. About 3 weeks after the birthday disaster, the financial pressure on my father reaches a breaking point. The market takes another dip, his pension projections come back lower than expected, he's losing sleep, snapping at my mother, obsessively checking his retirement accounts like they're going to magically grow overnight. My mother finally puts her foot down. She sits him down at the kitchen table and says, "You need to talk to someone who understands money, someone who can help us figure this out." And then, against every instinct he has, she suggests me. My father's first reaction is exactly what you'd expect, a dismissive laugh. What's he going to tell me that I don't already know? But my mother isn't backing down. They work in investments. They understand markets. Just talk to them. What do you have to lose? So, reluctantly, with all the enthusiasm of a man walking to the dentist, he agrees. We set up a meeting. I suggest a neutral location, a quiet coffee shop downtown where we can talk without interruptions. He shows up exactly on time, because if there's one thing my father prides himself on, it's punctuality. He's wearing his reading glasses and carrying a notebook like he's about to sit through a lecture he's not interested in but feels obligated to attend. I'm already there, sitting at a corner table with my laptop and a thin black folder. When he sits down, I can see the skepticism written all over his face. He's doing me a favor by being here. He's humoring my mother. He's prepared to nod politely, take a few notes, and then go back to handling things his own way. We exchange the usual pleasantries. How's mom? How's work? Small talk that neither of us cares about. Then I get to the point. I slide the folder across the table and say, "Before we talk about your retirement, I need to clear something up. You called me your retirement mistake at your birthday party. I think it's time you understood what that mistake actually looks like." He frowns, confused, but he opens the folder. The first page is a summary sheet. Clean, professional, the kind of document a wealth management firm would produce. It lists my primary assets in broad categories: equity company, real estate holdings, investment portfolios, cash and liquid assets. No specific details yet, just categories and estimated values. He scans it quickly, probably thinking it's some kind of template I'm showing him. Then he gets to the second page. This one breaks down the company valuation, formation date, growth trajectory, current market valuation, my equity stake. The number is staggering, and I watch his eyes widen as he processes it. This is, he starts to say, but he doesn't finish the sentence. The third page covers real estate. Addresses are redacted for privacy, but the property types are clear. Residential rental properties, commercial real estate, land holdings, current market values, total portfolio value. He's flipping through faster now, his skepticism shifting to something else. Confusion. Maybe disbelief. The fourth page is the investment portfolio. Index funds, individual stock holdings, angel investments in other startups, performance over the last 5 years, current total value. By the time he gets to the final page, his hands are shaking slightly. The final page is the simplest and the most devastating. It's just one sentence in the center of the page, bold and undeniable. Total estimated net worth, $13.8 million. He stares at it for a long time. I don't say anything. I just let him sit with it, let him process, let him realize that every assumption he made about me, every dismissive comment, every time he called me a failure or a mistake, was based on ignorance. Finally, he looks up at me, and I can see he's struggling to find words. "This isn't possible," he says, but his voice doesn't have any conviction. He knows these documents are real. He can see the letterheads, the official stamps, the professional formatting. It is possible. I say calmly. This is the part of my life you never bothered to learn about. This is what your retirement mistake built while you were busy being disappointed in me. He's silent for a moment, and then he tries a different angle. Why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you say something? And this is where I have to be careful, because I can feel the anger rising in my chest, but I don't want to yell. I don't want to give him the satisfaction of seeing me lose control. So I take a breath and I say, I tried. When I was younger, I tried to share every small win with you, every milestone, every achievement. And you know what you did? You dismissed it. You mocked it. You told me not to get ahead of myself. So I stopped trying to prove myself to someone who had already decided I was a failure. He opens his mouth to argue, but I'm not done. And here's the part you need to understand. That venue where you threw your birthday party, the banquet hall where you stood at a microphone and called me your retirement mistake in front of everyone, that building is owned by an investment group. I'm the lead partner in that group. You were standing in a venue I own when you humiliated me. The color drains from his face. He didn't know. Of course he didn't know. He never asked. So here's where we are, I continue, keeping my voice steady. I have the financial capacity to fund your entire retirement, right now, today. I could write you a check that would solve every worry you have about money for the rest of your life, but I'm not going to do that. Why not? He asks, and there's something in his voice I've never heard before. It might be desperation. It might be fear. Because I'm not going to let years of disrespect be erased by a check, I say. I'm not going to let you treat me like a bad investment for decades and then expect me to bail you out when it's convenient for you. That's not how this works. The silence that follows is heavy. My father sits there, staring at the documents spread out on the table between us, and I can see his mind racing. He's trying to find an angle, a way to reframe this, a way to regain control of a conversation that has completely slipped away from him. Finally, he tries the apology route, but it's weak, and I can tell he doesn't mean it. I was just joking that night, he says, not meeting my eyes. It was a joke. Everyone knew it was a joke. Was it? Because you've been calling me your retirement mistake for years. In private, during arguments, during family dinners. You've been using that phrase like a weapon every time I didn't live up to your expectations. So forgive me if I don't believe the public version was just a joke. He shifts in his seat, uncomfortable. You're making me look like an idiot. And there it is. Not remorse for what he said, not acknowledgement of the pain he caused, just concern about how this makes him look. I didn't make you look like an idiot, I say, and I can hear the edge creeping into my voice now. You did that yourself. You decided to judge me without knowing the facts. You decided to publicly humiliate me based on assumptions. I'm just presenting the truth a little late. He tries anger next. Why didn't you tell me earlier? Why did you let me go on thinking... Thinking what? I interrupt. Thinking I was a failure? Thinking I'd wasted my life? Thinking I'd ruined your retirement plans? I lean forward, and for the first time in this conversation, I let him see just how much his words have hurt. I tried. When I was younger, I came to you excited about every small win, every project that showed promise, every sign that I was building something real. And you know what you did? You shut me down, every single time. I can feel the years of frustration pouring out now, and I don't try to stop it. You told me I was wasting my time. You told me I'd end up broke. You told me I was ruining your retirement timeline. So I stopped sharing. I stopped seeking your approval. I built my life without you because you made it very clear that unless I followed your exact script, I was a disappointment. He's silent now for a moment, and I can't tell if he's actually listening or just waiting for me to finish so he can defend himself. But I'm not done yet. You want to know the worst part? I continue. I could have been your retirement solution. I could have been the answer to every financial worry you've ever had, but you were so busy labeling me a mistake that you never bothered to see who I actually became. You never asked about my work. You never showed interest in my life. You just assumed I was failing, and you treated me accordingly. The words hang in the air between us, and for a moment I think he might actually acknowledge what he's done. But then he defaults to what he's always done. He tries to make it about him. "Well, what do you want me to do now?" he asks, and there's a hint of defensiveness in his tone. "Do you want me to apologize? Do you want me to beg? What exactly are you looking for here?" And this is where I have to decide what I actually want from this conversation. Do I want a forced apology that he doesn't mean? Do I want him to grovel? Do I want to hold this over him for the rest of his life? The answer is no. What I want is something much simpler and much harder to give. I want you to see me as a person, not as a retirement plan, not as an investment that didn't pan out, not as a disappointment or a mistake, just as your child, a human being who has feelings and who has built a life you know nothing about. I pause, choosing my next words carefully. I want you to understand that your words have consequences, that the things you say, especially in front of people, have weight, that you can't just call someone a mistake and expect them to forget it because it's convenient for you now. He's looking down at the table, and I can't read his expression. And here's the boundary I'm setting. I have the financial capacity to help you, that's not in question, but I will not write a single check, I will not transfer a single dollar until you can look me in the eye and treat me with the basic respect every human being deserves, not because of my net worth, not because you need something from me, but because I'm your child and I deserve better than how you've treated me. The silence stretches out, and I realize this is all I can do. I've presented the facts, I've set the boundary. The rest is up to him. He can choose to reflect, to change, to actually see me for who I am, or he can double down, stay stuck in his ways, and handle his retirement on his own. Either way, I'm done trying to prove my worth to someone who refuses to see it. I close my laptop and stand up, leaving the folder on the table. Those documents are yours to keep. Look them over, think about what I've said, and if you ever want to have a real relationship, one based on mutual respect instead of disappointment and resentment, you know how to reach me. I walk out of that coffee shop with my head held high, and for the first time in my entire life, I feel like I finally closed the loop on all those years of trying to earn his approval. I don't need it anymore. I never did. So let me bring this full circle and talk directly to you, because if you've made it this far in the story, there's probably something here that resonates with your own life. Maybe you have a parent who's never been satisfied with your choices. Maybe you have family members who treat you like a disappointment. Maybe you've spent years trying to prove yourself to people who've already decided you're not enough. Here's what I learned from all of this, and it's a lesson I wish I'd understood years ago. Sometimes the people who call you a mistake, who label you as a failure, who treat you like a bad investment, they're not actually seeing you at all. They're seeing their own fears, their own disappointments, their own unfulfilled expectations. They're projecting their version of success onto you and then punishing you when you don't match it. And here's the truth that nobody tells you. You are not responsible for managing someone else's expectations. You are not a retirement plan. You are not a life insurance policy. You are not a strategy for someone else's future. You are a whole, complete person with your own dreams, your own path, your own definition of success. And if the people in your life can't see that, if they can't respect that, if they keep trying to force you into a box that doesn't fit, that's on them, not you. My father spent decades telling me I ruined his retirement timeline. He spent years making me feel like a burden, like a mistake, like a failed investment. And when I finally showed him the numbers, when I laid out the undeniable proof that I'd succeeded beyond anything he imagined, you know what didn't change? The hurt, the years of feeling inadequate, the damage done by all those dismissive comments and public humiliations. Money doesn't erase that. Success doesn't erase that. A $13.8 million net worth doesn't magically heal the wounds left by someone who never believed in you. What does help is setting boundaries. It's saying, I deserve respect, and I won't accept anything less. It's walking away from people who refuse to see your value, even when you've proven it 1,000 times over. It's understanding that your worth isn't determined by someone else's opinion, no matter how much you love them or how desperately you want their approval. So here's my final message.